I'm Anna. Standing in the middle of my once shared home, surrounded by the remnants of a broken marriage, I'm reminded of how everything fell apart. 2 weeks ago, a moving truck pulled up in the driveway, and my soon-to-be ex-husband, Victor, walked in with his brother, Leo, ready to take his things. The air was thick with tension, and I knew that this was the final chapter in our tumultuous relationship. Victor and I had been married for nearly a decade. He worked in finance, a high-stress job that often made him short-tempered. I was a software engineer, with a steady income and a passion for problem-solving. We came from different family backgrounds. Victor's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were strict and traditional, always emphasizing the importance of hierarchy in a marriage. My parents, on the other hand, were more laid back and believed in equality. It all started 3 weeks ago when our new neighbors, Lily and her boyfriend Jake, moved in. Lily was in her early 20s, full of energy and always on the go. One evening, as I was taking out the trash, I saw Lily struggling with a large box. I couldn't just walk by, so I offered to help. It was a simple act of kindness, taking only a couple of minutes to carry the box to her door. We exchanged a few friendly words, and I thought that was the end of it. But when I walked back into the house, Victor was standing at the top of the stairs, his arms crossed, looking at me as if I'd done something wrong. "What was that?" he asked, his tone accusatory. I was confused. "What do you mean?" "I just helped the new neighbor with a heavy box." His jaw tightened, and his eyes narrowed. "You were all over her. You were smiling." I stared at him in disbelief. "I smile at people, Victor. It's called being polite." He wouldn't listen. He needed a villain, and he decided that I was it. "You're on the couch until you admit you were flirting and apologize," he said, as if he were reading a long-awaited rule. I was shocked, but I also knew that I hadn't done anything wrong. "Fine by me. I'll sleep on the couch until you apologize for falsely accusing me," I replied, my voice steady. That night, sleeping on the couch was miserable. I could hear Victor moving around in our bedroom, comfortable and oblivious to my discomfort. In the morning, he came downstairs as if nothing had happened and asked if I was ready to apologize. I refused, and he left for work without another word. By the third night, I realized that this wasn't just a temporary punishment. It was an attempt to control me. We had a spare room, which was mostly used for storage. That night, I took my pillow, blanket, and phone charger and moved into the spare room. The next morning, Victor noticed. "Couch too rough for you?" "Then apologize," he said, smirking. I simply replied, "No." I had about $3,000 in savings for a new coding project. On the 4th day of my exile, I decided to turn the spare room into my own space. I ordered a queen-size memory foam mattress for $800. When it arrived, Victor watched as I dragged it down the hallway, not offering to help. He scoffed and said, "You're really doing this?" I replied, "I'm really sleeping." Over the next few days, I started to transform the spare room. I bought a leather armchair for $200, a sturdy oak desk for $150, and a 55-inch TV for $300. My best friend, Maya, helped me move everything in while Victor was at work. She asked, "What are we doing?" I said, "Building a bunker against Victor's ego." As the room started to take shape, Victor became more and more frustrated. He'd knock on the door and say I was being childish, but I just told him I was being comfortable. On the 18th day, I installed a keypad lock for $150. When I punched in the code for the first time and heard the click, I felt a sense of safety. One night, as I was video chatting with Maya, Victor tried to open the door. When he couldn't, he started pounding on it and shouting. I told him that he'd kicked me out of the bedroom, and this was now my space. He called his father, Mr. Thompson, on speakerphone and complained that I'd locked myself in the room. Mr. Thompson asked what I'd done, and Victor said I was flirting with the neighbor. Mr. Thompson paused and said, "If this is really what happened, maybe you should apologize." Victor was furious. He came back to my door and shouted that I'd embarrassed him. I calmly told him that he'd embarrassed himself by turning a simple act of kindness into a big deal. He threatened to call a locksmith, but I told him he couldn't force me out of a room in a house I also owned. After that, things got worse. Victor stopped doing my laundry and cooking my share of dinner. I bought a compact washer-dryer combo for $400 and started meal prepping on Sundays. I even added an air fryer for $80. A week later, Victor called a house meeting. He invited his colleague, Sarah, to help us talk things through. He said I'd taken things too far. I explained that he'd accused me of flirting because I helped a neighbor with a box. Sarah seemed taken aback, and Victor tried to change the subject by saying I'd turned the spare room into a bachelor pad. I told them that it was a functional bedroom because he'd exiled me. Victor then played his winning card and claimed the master bathroom for himself. I simply said, "Okay." Within 2 days, I turned the hall bathroom into a spa, spending $60 on a rainfall shower head, $200 on a high-tech bidet seat, and adding plush towels, plants, and a humidifier. When Victor's job went hybrid and he needed a home office, he wanted the spare room. I refused, and he set up a desk in the living room. He also tried to break into my room, leaving scratch marks around the keypad lock. I confronted him, and when he laughed it off, I installed a hallway camera. One Sunday, when Maya came over to watch football, Victor called the police, saying I couldn't have people in my room. The officer listened to our story and told us we needed counseling. After that, Victor sent me payment requests for half of the room upgrades, but I declined and sent my own requests for half of the bedroom furnishings I was banned from. The final straw came when I came home one Tuesday to find my door wide open. The keypad lock was gone, and my room had been violated. The bed was stripped, the mini fridge was unplugged, and my things were rearranged. On the desk was a piece of paper that said maintenance inspection required. I called Victor and asked what he'd done. He said he needed to inspect the room for damage. I stopped arguing and simply said, "Okay." That night, I gathered all the evidence of his harassment, screenshots of texts, photos of the lock damage, and video clips from the hallway camera. I called a lawyer and had papers served on him, requesting exclusive use of my room, compensation for damaged property, and documentation of his interference. Victor then changed tactics and started being overly nice, but I wasn't fooled. One night, he invited Lily and Jake over for dinner. When I saw them at the table, I declined to join. Victor exploded, saying I'd embarrassed him. I told him he'd invited the woman he'd accused me of flirting with, and that was on him. That night, he packed a bag and left for his sister's place. 2 weeks later, he came back with the moving truck and Leo. As they tried to take their things, we argued over every object in the house. When I told Victor we were divorcing, he was shocked. He said it wasn't supposed to go this way, that I was supposed to apologize and come back to him. But I knew that I couldn't live in a relationship built on lies and control. The divorce papers were filed, and after some negotiation, I kept the house and paid him his half of the equity. The master bedroom now feels like a ghost town, but I'm in no hurry to fully move back. I've kept my setup in the spare room, the room that saved me. Looking back, I realize that it was never about the box. It was about respect, trust, and partnership. Victor chose control, and I chose to stand up for myself. I've started therapy and have begun dating lightly. Every time I walk past the spare room, I smile, knowing that sometimes the smallest battles can reveal the biggest truths, and I will never apologize for something I didn't do.